Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Huh. You're telling me it's actually acceptable for the Toronto Maple Leafs to win hockey games in October? What a revelation, and what a breath of fresh air compared to what we have gotten the last couple of weeks and honestly this entire season so far. Welcome into Game Over Toronto, everyone. My name is Zach Payne. I will be your host for this evening's program following a 4-3 win in overtime over the Buffalo Sabres. Certainly not the prettiest game, certainly not the prettiest effort, and there is a lot that we could talk about, but you know what? With how negative we've been on this show over the last week and a bit, I think it's just, we deserve an evening to just be positive and embrace good vibes and good feelings and positive emotions. This is fun. This is fun. This is how it's supposed to be, right? This is what we're used to, actually winning hockey games. This is, yeah, welcome in everyone to Game Over Toronto. If you're new here, remember to hit like and subscribe. We are live after every single Toronto Maple Leafs game. And if you're new here, then quick rundown of the show. In the first period, I always like to do a quick game recap. Second period, we get into the big topic of the game. Third period, we get into a smaller topic. Fourth period, Q&A. But I like to kind of have this be an interactive show throughout, so of course, comment throughout, and we are going to just have ourselves a jolly old good time before, and thank you to the Leafs for having the game start 2 hours earlier this hockey night in Canada. That, for you East Coasters, this is how I live. I live with 5 p.m. start times. This is a 3 p.m. start time for me. This is a very different feeling. Like, hockey night in Canada is like first period's still going on. The Blue Jays are first pitches in a few minutes, so probably going to be a bit of a shorter show so that everyone can go watch the Blue Jays tonight. But yeah, man, the Leafs won a hockey game. Luke Venables saying, I like hockey again. Yeah, it's so much more fun when you win, hey? Jake McCabe, MVP. Certainly had his moments, and we got to talk about him dropping Alex Tuch in a little bit. A win's a win, no matter how pretty or ugly that win happens to be. Absolutely. So welcome in, everyone. How about that game? Was certainly not a visually appealing game. There was honestly, like, if we start like right off the first period, this was not a good start for the Leafs. The Leafs went like 15 minutes in this game without getting a shot at 5-on-5. They had a couple of power plays that were not very pleasing to look at. The Sabres opened the scoring too with Tage Thompson. Leafs in transition just lose him on the backside, and aside from like general like, oh, like the guy on the backside of the play is left a little open, Tage Thompson just fires a beautiful shot over the shoulder of Caden Primo. Would you like a save? Maybe. Would you like better coverage? Maybe. But sometimes good players make good plays. And Tage Thompson, he got a goal last night. He gets two again in this one. Just a fantastic shot from him. Opens the scoring. And I thought that we were going to go into the first intermission down one with the Leafs having no gas, no energy, no momentum. But at the end of the first period, we get one of the most bizarre line combinations leading to a goal. Now, for those of you who are unaware, William Nylander did not play in this game due to the injury that he suffered last night. He was a game time decision. He participated in the line rushes in warm-up, but couldn't go. I imagine he'll be back on Tuesday against Calgary. So he doesn't go. Nick Robertson not only draws back into the lineup, but draws into the top line with Matthews and Bobby McMahon. But on this play, it was actually Robertson and Easton Cowan out there with Matthews. Leafs get after it on the forecheck behind the net. Matthews knocks the puck free, gets it to Easton Cowan, who sets up Robertson in the slot, and Nick Robertson just with the one-touch rocket from the low slot, his first of the year. Easton Cowan on a little point streak, 2-game point streak, his third assist of the year, Matthews' third assist of the year, and the Leafs tie the game at 1, and I was content. The Leafs did not have a good first period, but they got out of it tied. Now, the obvious asterisk to that is the Leafs suck in the second period, and I went into the second period being like, okay, this is where they're going to lose it. But thankfully, they actually played mostly fine. It's the same kind of story as last night, where the Leafs actually played a pretty good second period last night, but a couple of mistakes and the Sabres capitalize on them makes it look worse than it was. The Leafs, same thing. They actually played pretty well in the second period and for the rest of the game, but one stupid play resulted in the game being tied, but the game was tied because the Leafs took the lead early on. Matias Maccelli on an odd man rush. Nifty little play from John Tavares in the neutral zone to get it up to Matt Nyes. He loses it, but Tavares gets it weaving through traffic, sends it down low to Maccelli, who taps it in, his second of the year, and the Leafs take a 2-1 lead. John Tavares, who had a fantastic game in this one. Later on, again, second period, going mostly the Leafs' way, but it wasn't like the Leafs were getting a ton of chances. And then we get towards the end of the period, and Bowen Byram sifts one through traffic. Now, this one, I got really mad at two players in particular, Simon Benoit and Max Domi, because Caden Primo, who actually had a perfectly fine game, had no chance on this one. A simple wrister from the point gets through because Simon Benoit and Max Domi get boxed out in front. It looked like the Sabres forwards were the defenders on that play because Benoit and Domi were the ones getting pushed away from the net, and the Sabres guys just did whatever they wanted in front. Horrible defense, horrible net front defense, did not do your goalie any favors, and as a result, it's 2-2. Now, in the third period, the Leafs just were not getting a ton of chances, but the Sabres weren't either, so it seemed okay until the Sabres have a shift where they're just in the offensive zone, running circles around the Leafs. Things are not going the Leafs' way, and they take a penalty, giving the Sabres a power play. On that power play, a shot from the point kicks out a rebound to Tage Thompson, who spinorama shoots it 5-hole on Primo, who's sliding across and can't make the stop, gives the Sabres a 3-2 lead. And admittedly, I thought that was the game. I did not give the Leafs any chance to come back, and admittedly, the Leafs were not good in the few moments after that Tage Thompson goal to give the Sabres the lead until, out of nowhere, when the Leafs are just in complete disarray, they're struggling to get out of the zone, they're struggling to complete a pass, they're struggling to do anything, and Dakota Joshua, who got his first of the season last night, skates through the neutral zone into the offensive zone, weaves through like three players as he's cutting from right to left, shoots it back to his right, over the pad, under the glove. Somehow, some way, I was flabbergasted that this goal went in, that this play somehow worked out, but Dakota Joshua buries it, giving the Leafs, or tying the game for the Leafs, and then after a few more moments, not much happening, we go to overtime. In overtime, the Sabres, they had a couple of big chances. Rasmus Dahlin had a really nice chance. That one was blocked. Nick Waugh was starting in overtime for some reason. He did make a really good block, though. Then another play where the Sabres had a chance. It doesn't work out. Play goes the other way. John Tavares on the partial break, the MVP of this game for sure, fires one home, his 499th career goal, gives the Leafs a win, and I can breathe again. Oh my Lord. It was so nice just to win. So for those of you who don't know, something you should know about me is I hate the shootout, right? I'm of the mind that I would rather lose in overtime than be subjected to watching a shootout because it is not hockey. I was so desperate for a win that I was like, you know what? If it comes in a shootout, it comes in a shootout. Just please win for the love of God. Because if you had lost both of these to the Sabres, that would have been a tragedy. But the Leafs, they managed to come back and win. Yeah. There was nothing more to that sentence. They just win, and I can breathe. The Leafs just snapped a 3-game losing streak to snap a 4-game Buffalo Sabres win streak. What even is that sentence? I don't know, actually. That seemed like we were on the upside down. It seemed like we were in the upside down, but I think we're starting to correct course a little bit. And this, I'm not going to lie, this game kind of feels, what year would this have been? I think this would have been the 21-22 season, or was it earlier? It might have been earlier. There was a year where the Leafs were they were just not playing well in October, as they usually don't. And they had a game in Chicago. And in overtime, William Nylander scored an overtime winner. And the Leafs, it was an ugly game, but they got a win. And then after that, they got some positive momentum. They built off that and went on a nice little run. I'm hoping that this game can be that for the Leafs. It was not pretty. It was not a game that you want to take a lot from in terms of like repeat that aside from the outcome. But I'm hoping that just getting a win getting some good vibes back, getting the juju going again. You've got a game on Tuesday against Calgary, who's been awful to start this year, and hopefully the Leafs can start to build some momentum as we end October and start heading into November here, ideally, hopefully. Caden Primo has his second win as a Leaf. I don't really care about Shvilovs because what happens to the Canucks doesn't really pertain to the Leafs. But Primo's 2-0. He didn't look good in the Nashville game. He was perfectly acceptable in this one. So I will take it. Like, I have no complaints about Caden Primo. Ideally, that would be his last game as a Leaf because I would expect Stolarz to start on Tuesday, and I would expect Joe Wool to hopefully be back next weekend. Maybe starts November, because November 1st is next Saturday. So maybe next Saturday could be Joe Wool's first game of the year. Who knows? Although I guess they play Wednesday, so Primo might have to play one more. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. To go to Joshua, 2-game goal streak. Can he be stopped? Apparently this line of Joshua Cowan is the secret sauce, so keep it going, man. While it hasn't been pretty and there were mistakes, the Leafs didn't look like they gave up on the game at any point. I thought, no, and that is an important note. And we're going to talk about, I'm saving this for kind of the second period, and we'll talk about the Jake McCabe stuff too, where the Leafs were just much better with the physicality and the energy and the intensity. They weren't getting scoring chances, but they were at least playing more like how you want them to play. And they hopefully getting the win, like, they came out with more purpose and they played with more direction, and hopefully getting the win when they're playing like that will result in them taking the right lessons from this game, being like, oh, so if we play this way, good things are going to happen. The Leafs tweeted out that Hildeby was the backup because Stolarz is not injured, David. It was just he's played a lot, so they were giving him a full night off. And the Leafs have done this before, where sometimes they'll just have their starting goalie sit in the press box, because even when you're backing up, you still go through morning skate, you still go through warm-ups, you're still involved. The Leafs just do this where they're like, you know what? Let's just give you a full day off. Hildeby can come up, he can sit on the bench, and if anything happens, Hildeby is going to be pretty similar quality to Primo anyways, so is what it is. So yeah, it's simply to ensure that Stoley wasn't playing. Exactly that. Better shade starting to look like Parza, your older self, might be a huge shot in the arm. Maybe milk Calgary for some extra confidence. Then that should give you some buzz. Hopefully, man. Welcome back, Pyro. Good to see you again. Like I said, hopefully the Leafs can use this as a way to generate some momentum, because obviously, they haven't played great in October, but we're heading into November, and we know that the Leafs usually play good in November, and maybe this will be the spark that gets them going again, because they did have some good moments in this game, and we're going to talk about that in the second period. But before we get there, just a reminder to hit that like button and subscribe. We got a couple of you watching. Make sure to come comment in the chat as well your thoughts on the game, and be sure to go check out the Game Over Network on all social media platforms. And Game Over Montreal is running as well as Game Over Toronto through the early part of this season, so maybe go check out Game Over Montreal after their game against the Vancouver Canucks tonight. They've got a lot of drama going on with all the ref stuff that happened in Edmonton, so that'll be an interesting show. I don't know who's hosting it, but hey, regardless, go check them out. Go subscribe to them, and subscribe to Game Over Toronto as well. In the second period, we're going to start with attitude. And this is the continuation of a conversation we've had multiple times over the last week about the Leafs not caring, the Leafs being soft, the Leafs not showing intensity. This game, this is what we want to see. I'm not asking the Leafs to act like the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. I want them to act like that in the playoffs if they get there. But in the regular season, I just want a few simple things. Effort. I want you to hit everything that moves when applicable, obviously, and stand up for each other and stand up for yourself. And the Leafs were so much better in that regard in this game. They were so physical in this one. It felt like they were hitting everything that moved. I thought Matthew Nyes was doing a much better job of hitting everything. I thought Simon Benoit had a couple of really nice hits. OEL, even though he took a couple of stupid penalties and had a really brutal turnover on a goal that didn't count, but aside from that, he was laying some good hits. I thought Matthews was fantastic in terms of the defensive and physical aspects. He was getting involved in a lot of board battles. He saved at least 2 goals in this one. He had one where he blocked a shot behind Primo, had another one at the end where he gets back to break up the pass to Tage Thompson. That would have been the hat-trick goal. Matthews was fantastic in those defensive aspects. Maybe not the best offensive night for him, but I loved to see the effort and hustle he was playing with, and that felt like a top-down thing where the Leafs were playing with a lot more energy as a result throughout the lineup. Yarncrook had a few nice moments. Robertson even tried to lay a couple of hits as well, but obviously the biggest example of this is Jake McCabe, who on a play where Bowen Byram is skating into the offensive zone, he goes to take a shot and McCabe lays him out. Almost caught him in the head, but he didn't. He hit him in the shoulder, spins him around, and Alex Tuch takes exception to that, and he goes up to McCabe and says, "We're going to fight for that." Jake McCabe doesn't even give Tuch a chance, drops the gloves, and I have not seen this clean of a right hand knockdown in a fight, in an NHL fight, since Alex Ovechkin knocked out Andrei Svechnikov. Jake McCabe absolutely floored Alex Tuch, bounced his head off the ice on the way down because he got KO'd by that right hand. It was a beautiful right hand, and I came from watching the UFC fights earlier today, and that was the best right hand I saw all day, and I spent my morning watching the Abu Dhabi card and all of those UFC fights, and Jake McCabe still had the best right hand of the day. Just absolutely floored him, and that kind of, up to that point, the energy wasn't necessarily with the Leafs in the first period. They were okay, but they weren't great. After that moment where Jake McCabe lays a big hit and fights and knocks out Alex Tuch, the Leafs in the second and third period, they played with a lot more fire, a lot more passion, a lot more intensity. And it seems like that was the turning point in this game as far as the effort and those other aspects in this game. It was absolutely fantastic to see. I've been critical of Jake McCabe's at time this year because he hasn't completed a lot of passes. He hasn't been great with the puck on his stick, but he has been fantastic at blocking shots the last couple of games and getting into shooting lanes. He's been fantastic at using his body to win board battles. He's been fantastic defensively and physically, and that is what you want to see. Absolutely beautiful stuff from Jake McCabe, and absolutely just beautiful from the Leafs in general because we've seen in the past where the Leafs, there'll be a fight, right? There'll be a fight, and the Leafs will be like, yeah, cool, you fought, and then nothing. I give the Leafs a lot of credit for responding to that moment very positively and taking the energy that came from that fight and running with it. It was fantastic. And I'm curious. I'm going to monitor Twitter because I'm willing to bet someone on the Leafs is going to credit that moment with the kind of a turning point. We'll see. I don't think that I don't know. We'll see what happens. Jake McCabe is talking to the media. Tavares is also talking as well. So we'll see what happens. I think when Berube speaks, he's going to be like, yeah, that was a big moment for us when McCabe stepped up and fought. So that was great. Also, I don't know if I did mention it. I think I briefly mentioned it, but John Tavares is up to 499 career goals after that overtime winner. He's one away from 500, which is a pretty exclusive club. He's had a shockingly good career. I think he also tied, it was Mike Bossy and Joe Nieuwendyk or something in career points, I believe. He's starting to get some of those milestones and accolades that very few will get to at the NHL level, so that's fantastic for him. I'll admit I felt a little, more than a little nervous to see Primo Hildeby as the duo being trusted to shut the door while the rest of the team remembers how to play. Can you imagine if Primo got shelled and pulled so they had to fall back to Hildeby? I love the Hildebys, but that is a dice roll. If Primo got shelled to the point where he was getting pulled, then the game is over. It would have been over. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I think it's just giving Stolarz a rest, and they probably were like, Primo, you're going to be in the game no matter what. Any offensively blunt teams upcoming to maybe give Hildeby a game, you can give either Primo or Hildeby the Calgary game on Tuesday and then go back to Stolarz on Wednesday if you want. It doesn't really matter, honestly. Like, Hildeby and Primo are basically the same quality, so you might as well send Hildeby or keep Hildeby up and let him back up Primo again on Tuesday if you want. I don't really care. We'll see what they do. I imagine it'll just be back to Stolarz. Give McCabe the C. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, Matthews. I really liked some of the more subtle things of Matthews' game today. So he'll escape the strip the captaincy conversation for a day. Although we've had those moments this season already. Wouldn't be surprised if Hellebuyck is the only Canadian goalie on a Canadian team to start regular 60 games. Yeah, starting 60 games is such a thing of the past. Unless you have a superstar, unless you have a Vasilevsky or a Hellebuyck or I guess Ottinger will probably start 60 plus for the Stars, but it's just such a foreign concept nowadays. So many teams are falling back to the tandem, and now that Joe Woll is back, like the Leafs are going to fall back to that. Stolarz isn't going to play much. If he's fully healthy, shouldn't play more than 45 games in the regular season, right? Like the idea should be we're 9 games in now and Primo's played 2. So yeah, definitely not worried about that. McCabe definitely getting the game belt at least. I hope so. I wonder if we'll see a picture of that coming soon. But I don't know. William Nylander, by the way, just got this update. Lower body injury. Hopeful to play on Tuesday versus the Flames. Versus the hometown Flames, which, fun piece of lore for those who don't know. William Nylander, noted Swede, was actually born in Calgary. But he's still Swedish. He doesn't identify as Canadian, which, whatever. That doesn't matter. Yep, McCabe got the belt. McCabe did get the belt. That's I love this photo. I'm going to put this on screen of McCabe with the belt because that picture is awesome. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. Look at these beauties. Look at these beauties. We're going to keep that there. So McCabe gets the belt for this game. And look, that fight was awesome. I'm going to go watch that replay of that fight after because it was just amazing. I thought Carlo actually had a pretty good game as well. Defensively, he has his moments with the puck, but Carlo, I haven't loved him this season, admittedly, even though I was a big supporter of his when he was traded, when the Leafs acquired him, and I defended him through last season. Haven't loved him to start this year. He's been pretty bad at times, but I thought he looked a little bit more comfortable tonight. Morgan Rielly, man, he wasn't even that special in this one, but just having him on the top power play instead of OEL, so there's less turnovers, such a change there. And his skating, it's so much nicer when Morgan Rielly's in the lineup, especially after Dakota Mermis last night. That was such a disaster. So yeah, we're good with that. Does Bobrovsky play 60 anymore? Maybe he might. The only reason he wouldn't is age, but he clearly can play. Actually, how many games has Bobrovsky played so far? Because I would expect that he would be a guy that could. By the way, the Panthers up 2-0 on Vegas. Is this going to be Vegas's first regulation loss? So Bob has already played 7 games, and he has played. Well, he's been pretty consistently in the mid-50s. I don't think he'll get to 60. I don't think he'll quite get that far. McCabe versus Xhekaj is going to be wild. They had a chance in game 1. They didn't do that. It was always, I think it was Revo that fought Xhekaj a couple of years ago. But the thing with McCabe is he's very capable of fighting. He doesn't do it often. And it's because he's too valuable to fight, and he kind of recognizes that. He'll fight if necessary. Like when Tuck stepped up to him, it was necessary, and he fought. Or McCabe versus McDermott/Tkachuk. McCabe versus Tkachuk, I would love to see, mainly because McCabe has a big size advantage. I want to see, man, can Jake McCabe do that, what he did to Alex Tuck? Can he do that to Sam Bennett the first time the Leafs and Panthers played this year? That would just bring a smile to my face. That'd be fantastic, eh? That'd be absolutely fantastic. with that being said, I'm going to turn us over to our third period here. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you're new to Game Over Toronto. And if you want to support the Game Over Network in any way, you can go check out our Patreon. That includes a link to our Discord server if you want to come hang out with some like-minded people talking hockey over there. And you can also get some merch from the GameOverNetwork.com. You can get things like this hoodie that I'm wearing. We also have merch available for every single Canadian market. Ignore that voice crack. You can get hats, shirts, hoodies, mugs, you name it, and just go check it out. thegameovernetwork.com/store. Go check that out. Now, in this third period, I do, it kind of similar to last night. I admittedly don't really have a whole lot because some of these games have been pretty cut and dry with, like the stories, and there's only so much to talk about when we talk. Like, we talk every single game, and we've been talking rather big picture about these games. I want to actually focus in on this game specifically a little bit more. And last night, this is going to be like, if we're just looking at these past two games, I really like this Joshua Waugh and Easton Cowan line. And I actually really like what that line brings. I do still think Easton Cowan has another gear to hit in terms of his confidence with the puck on his stick and just being engaged in the offensive zone. Not engaged, being active in the offensive zone. But Dakota Joshua, couple of goals, he's starting to figure it out. He's starting to use his size. He's starting to go to the net. He's starting to create chaos. Nick Waugh, when he's working with Joshua, he's starting to figure out. He's starting to get it on the forecheck. And Easton Cowan just very similar to Matias Michelli, where he just makes smart plays. Now, obviously, Michelli is a lot better at that, but I really like this third line. And when Scott Laughton comes back, which will be soon, the Leafs are going to be faced with a weird decision because as of right now, I don't know who's coming out of the lineup. It probably is going to end up being Järnkrok if they keep Cowan in. In a fully healthy lineup, there's a better than 0% chance that Järnkrok is a scratch, Robertson is a scratch / traded. By the way, that Robertson for Chinnikov rumor that's been going around with Columbus, the Leafs play Columbus on Wednesday. Would be a good time for the GMs to just get in a room and be like, hey, is there a fit here? Because Robertson desperately needs not desperately, but like he clearly wants a bigger role. And for as much as he played on the first line tonight, he's not going to get that role in Toronto. Chinnikov is a guy in Columbus who was good a couple of years ago and just needs a change of scenery. Kind of similar to Joshua and Michelli in that sense, where it's like you're buying low on a guy. I think there's a fit there. And Robertson, the Blue Jackets would be buying low anyways. I wonder if that Chinnikov for Robertson swap makes sense. But then where are you putting Chinnikov? Are you putting him with Juan Michelli or Juan Joshua? I don't know. But there's let's say no trades happen yet, whatever. First line, I like McMahon on the top line, actually. There was one play that bothered me where Matthews gave him a chance in transition, and it was a 3-on-2, and McMahon took a contested shot. And I watched that, and I was like, man, if Matthew Knies is out there, or really if anyone else is out there, that's a drop pass to Matthews and a shot from the high slot that is probably going in. And I watched, I was like, that's the one limitation of McMahon on the top line. But I have liked him there. I think they're going to stick with Nylander for now on the top line. So McMahon, Matthews, Nylander. Then you've got Knies, Tavares, Michelli. I'm perfectly fine keeping that line together. They've been good. They've been a very solid second line. Like I said, the third line of Joshua Waugh, Cowan, I like that trio, so I'm fine keeping those guys together. Fourth line is going to be Lorentz, Laughton, someone. So at this point, I would have it be Calle Järnkrok, and I would be scratching Max Domi. I don't know if we're ready for that conversation, but the Cowan's been too good to keep out of the lineup. And this is what I said. I said, is there any way Cowan stays past the 9 games? I think the last update I gave was after he was on the top line. I said like 15%. I think I'm going to climb that up to 30% at this point. I think there's a 30% chance Cowan stays past his 9 games primarily because Robertson hasn't earned that spot and Max Domi is playing himself out of the lineup. So obviously the lineup thing is going to be an ever change. Like it's going to be a revolving door always because Berube is never happy and I've been pretty bothered by the way he's deploying these guys at times. But Max Domi has had such a weird journey this season where he was supposed to be the first line right winger out of camp. Then he gets hurt in camp. Then he's told, you're not getting that spot back. Then Scott Lawton gets hurt, and then it's, okay, now you're the third line center, which is a horrible spot for him. And then he played himself out of that role because he was so bad. Then he got a quick chance on the top line, and then he got sent back down. It's just, Max Domi's been dealt a bad hand this season, but he's also not been good. I have not liked Max Domi really at all. When he's gotten chances, he's turned it over, and he's not been effective, so I think we're getting to the point where I don't think Max Domi should be in the lineup. I would rather Cowan at this point. And especially as Pyro just mentioned, next 4 games are against mid/McKenna contenders that keep Cowan in. Yeah, I think you keep Cowan in. If you don't want to keep Cowan in, though, you can put Domi with... Nah, but Cowan's better defensively, which is shocking. Cowan's not good defensively, but he's better. You can put Domi with Joshua and Why, I guess. Okay, fine. You can do that. How much do you put the struggles to find wins to the lines not being ideal due to injuries? Not much, honestly. I put it to a combination of coaching putting them in bad spots and the players not executing. I will say, the downgrade for the easy narrative for non-Leaf fans is, oh, you're missing Marner. The correct narrative for puck knowers, the downgrade from Lane Lambert to Derek Lalonde, oh my lord, it is so much bigger than I expected because the defensive concepts and the defensive coverage has been such a problem this year, and that is not a that is a personnel thing, but that's a coaching thing. The way that they defend in the defensive zone with the one forward sinking down into the middle, leaving the other point open, and the way that they overcommit to the puck side, that is a coaching thing. I've really not liked Derek Lalonde so far. He's not impressed me at all. The power play obviously is not great, but whatever. They'll figure that out at some point. But yeah, there's a lot of struggles that are not injury related. And will we ever get a fully healthy lineup that Berube wants? Probably not, but we have to play the what if game a little bit with that. Is Max Domi suited to fill to a fill-in role if he's not in the lineup, or do you look to trade him? If Domi's not an everyday player at this point, you have to get out of that deal so that you can free up cap space for the deadline. But he should get it. Like, look, let's be realistic. Domi's going to get like a 5-game stint on the top line at some point. We'll see what he does with it. We'll see what he does. Keep Cowan in, let that line cook, lower risk games. Yeah, and Cowan has played 6 games now. So if you play him against Calgary on Tuesday, Columbus on Wednesday, the decision's coming next weekend. The decision's coming next weekend whether Cowan's going to stay with this lineup or not. So that conversation's coming. Anyways, to put a bow on this part of the discussion, I actually am fine with the lines right now. I'm fine with the lines right now. And Domi is officially on healthy scratch watch. With that being said, I'm going to turn us over to our final segment. This is the part of the show where we invite your questions. Of course, I've been talking to you guys and answering questions throughout, but this is the dedicated Q&A part of the show. So if you have questions, make sure to get them in. And of course, a reminder to hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto, as we are live after every single Toronto Maple Leafs game. We'll be live again on Tuesday. We'll be live again on Wednesday. We'll be live after every single game. So make sure to ring that notification bell as well so you don't miss a single stream. Okay, let me just quickly see if there were any other quotes that I want to touch on before. Berube saying that was a gritty win. Yeah, I could say gritty win. Definitely not the most deserved, but the Leafs stuck with it. They had good effort in this one. Will John Tavares sneak over to the Dome tonight? I think so. Go Jays. Yeah, it's just kind of Tavares hype right now. There's not a whole lot else on the quote front. The Jays game did start, and the Dodgers scored at the top of the first, but looks like Springer hit a double to kick off the bottom of the first. So we'll see how the Jays do. I'm going to turn that game on in a couple of minutes. Slightly fun question for the fourth period. How many Leafs make Olympic rosters? Ooh. So Matthews, obviously, is going to be the presumed captain of Team USA. Nylander, obviously, is going to be on Team Sweden. That might be it. Matthew Nyes has a chance to be on Team USA, but I don't know if he's going to make the cut for a couple of reasons. One is I don't know if he's, quite frankly, good enough to be on Team USA. Team USA has the most insane personnel grouping. The fact that Team Canada beat them was kind of a miracle in the Four Nations. I'm not going to lie. Team USA they're going to be the favorites in the Olympics this year. They have such an insane group of forwards. So it's going to be very difficult for Nice to crack that group. The other thing working against him is he's a Leaf. And for as much as we want to say the Leafs center of the hockey universe and that helps get your name out there, that is true. But when it comes to these kind of decisions, like this player or that player, they're going to probably favor the other player because the Leaf is going to get more negative attention. So I don't think, and that's the only other question. Riley's not making Team Canada. Is there any I'm trying to think. Who else is even an option? Will Michelli make Team Finland? I don't think so. What? I'd have to look up. What was Team Finland's lineup? I want to see what Team Finland's roster was for the Four Nations. Does Michelli have a chance to crack that? He'd have to have a really good year. Michelli would have to have 30 or 40 points by the new year, which I don't think he's going to do. And aside from that, I don't think... No. So I think it's probably just going to be two. I think it'll just be Nylander and Matthews for that. Okay. What is your favorite historical Maple Leafs fight? So this is the unfortunate thing about being the age that I am, is that I did not experience the physicality and hype of the early 2000s Leafs. So the Darcy Tucker, Ty Domi, those kind of years, I was, alive, but I was not very aware of what was happening and wasn't, I was a child. I was a toddler, so I don't really have a good answer to that because the Leafs, there's not a lot of memorable fights as of late. So unfortunately gonna have to pass that question to the more experienced Leaf fans that can have a better answer to that. Do you think a gritty win would be better for the psyche, which is where Toronto has had struggles, or versus if they beat the Sabres 5-2? I do think winning a game where you had to grind it out will be good for the team in terms of the lessons that they have to take from it. Because now they're learning, we are not necessarily talented enough to outscore our problems anymore, so we're going to have to dig in and work. I think that'll be better. Tavares or OEL not making the cut? OEL, no. I think Sweden's too good. Tavares, maybe. Tavares is the other maybe with Nyes. I think he can, but he didn't make the Four Nations, and he had a great year last year, and he didn't make the Four Nations. Now, granted, some of their roster decisions were stupid, but he was unreal and didn't make it last year. So unless he somehow matches what he did last year, which he's trying his best. He's just a little bit down from last year. I don't think he'll make it, but I think that's honestly better because I want Tavares to have the time off to just get ready for the playoff push and whatnot. I don't know. As much as I'd like to continue to watch the stream, there are 2 hockey games on. I plan to tune in those. Hope everyone has a good weekend. Have a good weekend, David. Thanks for tuning in. Cowan, no one correct me. No, unfortunately. Line A injured opens up a slot. Line A is injured. He's going to miss, I think it was 3 to 4 months with a core muscle surgery. So that's unfortunate for Line A. It does open up a spot. Michelli would have to black out for the first half of the year, and then he has a chance, but I don't know if he'll make it. Not a Leaf, but Nathan Walker should make the Olympics. Where's Nathan Walker from? Is he an Aussie? Is that why you're saying that? Australia. Now, Luke, this is where you actually, because you're the Aussie hockey whiz here. Does Australia have a Olympic hockey team? I don't want that to come across the wrong way, but do they have a team? Like, can they ice a roster? Knies will have to grind out to get that USA spot. That roster's got insane talent. I don't think Knies is gonna make it. He would have to also, him and Michelli and Tavares, all of them technically could, but they would have to go so nuclear for the next 2 months to make it. So I don't think that's gonna happen. And honestly, I think the rosters are a lot more set in stone as of now. So we'll see. With that being said, I think that's where we're going to wrap up the show for this evening. So thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of our post-game shows. I'll be back on Tuesday. I'll probably have a guest from Game Over Calgary joining me for that one, as it is a Flames and Leafs game. So I think I'm going to try to get Matt, who was doing the Calgary shows last year. We'll see if I can drag him out. Aside from that, thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Take care, everyone. Go Blue Jays. Cheers.